here with Oz, the lead game designer and developer of all things Level 7 so far. So, Level 7 was released last year, I believe at Gen Con, or was it Lock&Load?
It pre-released at Gen Con and PAX and came out in September of last year, and that was Level 7 Escape.
Alright, so we are here to talk about Level 7 Omega Protocol, which is different than Level 7, but for those people at home who haven't played Level 7, give us a little background of what is Level 7?
Okay, so the Level 7 brand is our modern UFO conspiracy setting. So it's based on things that people think really exist. Aliens are real, they want to get you, the government's working along with them and all that stuff. So
it's all true.
Yeah, it's all true, of course. So the Level 7 brand is that world. Escape, the very first game in it, is our first window into that world, where you play a person who has been captured by the government, handed over to the aliens, and then you have to run for your life from these alien monstrosities. And then we had just released Lockdown, the Level 7 Escape expansion. And then in the fall, we'll be releasing Level 7 Omega Protocol, the second game in the series, which is in no way mechanically related to Escape or Escape's expansion Lockdown.
So it's the same setting, but completely different game.
And yes, same setting, and it is a story sequel. So the story of Escape and then Lockdown follows up with Omega Protocol. Because we even mentioned at the very end of Escape, the Omega Protocol is coming to the base. A team is going to come and try and clean up. And so this is what you're playing in this new game, is the team of Commandos sent in to deal with this problem.
So the games are completely disconnected, but the story just continues and continues and continues.
And we're not going to necessarily do that with every single Level 7 game. We will change our focus and move around inside the setting, but for the first couple, we wanted to tell a linear story that expanded upon things and showed you more and more and more of the setting, but had relatable things inside.
All right, so what is, and some of the people at home I'm sure have played Level 7, what's different about Omega Protocol compared to Escape?
Okay, Escape is a tile placement exploration game. It's fairly abstract. You play a person that is a lot like yourself, and you're moving through tiles that you place that are a room and a room and a room, and you don't know what the map looks like, and you're just building it and trying to get out.
So as you enter new rooms, you place a new tile?
Yes. So you're moving into the darkness, basically. You don't know what's out there, and you're managing your level of fear and how that affects your health and other stuff, and trying to deal with the enemies that are out there on the map as they pop up.
Okay.
So Omega Protocol takes a completely different look at it, because it's about a team of commandos who know that these aliens exist, and it's their job to deal with them. So we've taken the detail level of what would be a giant room and put on a little tile, and we've blown it out a bit, and we put a grid on it, and then you move miniatures around tactically on that grid and play as the commandos or the overseer who controls the enemies and some of the map. And you have fights, and the overseer tries to complete things, and the commandos try and complete a mission that the overseer is basically actively hindering them from doing.
Right. So it's sort of like not exactly like a dungeon master and players set up, but
it is in the genre overall of dungeon crawl type experiences, and it plays a little bit like there's a guy in charge of all the bad guys and stuff, like a game master would be. Right. And there are people playing heroes, but it's not a role-playing level of experience. It's very much a tactical combat situation that's happening.
Right. When I was watching you guys play the game, it kind of looked like a skirmishy war machine kind of.
Yeah. It of course, coming from Privateer Press, has a lot of influences from War Machine. There's an ability called stealth and those kind of things. And
I noticed the guy had an ability called blur.
Yes. So basically, since I work for Privateer Press, I can borrow words without getting in trouble that mean kind of the same thing. So blur is an ability that prevents things from shooting you at range as well as they could.
So you mentioned there's this commando team playing heroes. How many commandos are on said team, and what do they do?
So you can play with up to 5 commandos and 1 overseer. So the game plays with 2 to 6 players. The commando team is the team leader. His job is to make the team better. He can let other players move when it's not their turn, or shoot when it's not their turn, or warn them about danger to raise their defenses. Then we have the countermeasure specialist. He wears this psychotronic suit that's based on some alien technology. And his job is to actively counter what the alien powers are doing, because all of our aliens are weirdly psychic. So his suit is built to shut down what they're doing, because remember, this team was designed to deal with these things. Right. Our next guy is our heavy support guy. He is a a tank. He carries a big gun that shoots a lot, and he wears a lot of armor.
Right.
The next guy in line is a rifleman. He's our jack of all trades. He has a bunch of drones that can do different jobs. He's also the team's best medic, and he can be a primary damage dealer, so he can do a couple of different things. And the last guy is a reconnaissance specialist who excels at mobility and melee. He's the only guy who really wants to do melee in the entire game. And being at the right place at the right time and getting himself out of situations also.
Right. You were saying he's like the scout, but he's like the guy who wants to open doors.
His abilities, because every one of these guys has a generic character sheet and then 8 kit cards that they can build themselves out of.
Right.
And those kit cards are a spectrum of their role that you can fine tune. And his things revolve around opening doors and moving through enemies and being more difficult to shoot at and that kind of stuff.
So how I viewed the kit cards, I mean, I haven't played the game yet, but when I saw you guys doing it, the kit cards kind of seem like this is the generalized class, sort of, and then these are quote-unquote like talents.
Yeah.
And I'm specializing in these abilities to make me really good at these, but not as good as this.
So there's 8 cards in each kit deck, plus there's 4 common kit cards, so everybody has access to 12 cards. And then you have 6 points to spend, and they cost 1 or 2 points apiece, basically. So you'll generally have 3 or 4 kit cards. So you can't take all 8 of your own kit cards. And sometimes you're going to need, because of the way the point system works out, to take one of the generic ones. And so that defines how you're going to play in that mission you're playing. So you have the ability between missions to fine-tune, and when you play the same mission a second time, you say, I'm going to try this different version of the same guy I played who will work a little bit differently.
So one thing that I liked about this game, watching you do it, and what we talked about previously, is the economy, how the game sort of stays balanced. So other games like this have problems with balancing, like the person controlling the bad guys can get way overpowered really easily sometimes. So what have you implemented in this game to sort of circumvent that while still allowing that person to be on kind of an even playing field?
He is evil.
This person, technically.
So one thing we want to do for the Commando players is we want to do an action point system. So unlike other games, even role-playing games, it's not that you can move, or you can move twice, or you can attack once and move, or you can attack twice. You have an action point system that says you can choose to move, and then the next thing you can choose to do can be shooting or moving again or whatever. And then our economy is the adrenaline system. And every single commando has a maximum adrenaline stat, which is how many adrenaline he can gain for the actions he does. So like moving costs 1, shooting costs 2, and your max adrenaline is anywhere between 4 and 6.
Okay.
So you can move for 1 adrenaline 6 times, moving multiple spaces per move.
Right.
Or you can shoot twice if you have 4 adrenaline max and you're doing 2. So you have a lot of flexibility in what you actually try to accomplish. And then the adrenaline you are gaining, those tokens, are part of that overall 3-point economy. So
when you were explaining it, there's a bank that at the beginning of the game, everyone gets a little, the overseer gets some adrenaline.
Yes, the overseer gets some adrenaline from the bank.
The players get adrenaline from the bank as they start doing actions or moving. And then
at the beginning of every round, all the adrenaline made last round by the commandos goes to the overseer for him to spend during that next round.
Right.
So they have a little bit of control, which is another aspect of our level 7 setting. In the first game, you had a resource system you were managing and you didn't have complete control of it.
Right.
So the commandos
were super scared. You're like, oh crap.
So the commandos have the control of the economy to a certain extent, because if they can figure out the cleanest way to do things, and if none of their dice rolls fail and all that stuff, if it takes 1 shot to kill one thing instead of 2 shots to kill one thing, they're generating less adrenaline and feeding less of that adrenaline to the overseer, so he can't quite do as much.
That was one thing I actually like in the game design is it makes it feel like you're this kind of like an elite commando team will come up with like the best way of going about something, but there's still the problem of, oh, that didn't work how we were expecting it. We got to do something about that. So adding more adrenaline if things don't work out perfectly.
Yeah, we built that team to be really synergistic.
Yeah.
And if you build them correctly, if you've played a game or two and you know how you want to play your characters, then the team leader can make things really, really easy on the rest of the guys, and they won't generate as much adrenaline to do different things.
Alright, so we're kind of running low on time, so is there anything else you would like to add about the game?
There's a million things to add about the game.
Right.
The one last thing I'll say about the mechanics, my favorite aspect of it, is if you sit down and play any kind of game where it's a team of people against a guy, role-playing game or otherwise, that team of people will never agree on what they want to do fast enough.
Right.
So, to mimic that military situation, we put one guy in charge to a certain extent, whereas he has initiative cards that determine the turn order of the commandos.
Right.
So if the scout guy doesn't want to be the guy who goes first to open the door, the team leader can give him the one initiative and say, okay, so socially, we'll get mad at you if you don't do what we want you to do.
Or it's like your commanding officer saying,
Yeah.
do
So
it.
he's the boss.
Yeah.
He will determine at least the order. He can't control what you do on your turn, but he's going to control the order of the action. So the guy he wants to go last will go last.
Alright, so look for level 7 Omega Protocol. I think you guys said around Gen Con.
There'll be pre-sales at Gen Con, and then it releases this fall. And we're going to announce all that stuff about the release date anytime.
Alright, sweet. Thanks, Alex.
Thanks.
How did